was unlawful. And we know that these reckless firings at the VA are not only harmful, but illegal, including the 2,400 already terminated at the VA and the potential for 80,000 or more that have been targeted by Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Secretary Collins. And all I can say as a former prosecutor and state attorney general is that I urge Secretary Collins and the Trump administration to comply with this court order. Failure to do so would be the height of irresponsibility and lawlessness. But we need to keep fighting for all of the dedicated veterans and the public servants who provide services to them by passing the Putting Veterans First Act. That's why we're here, and I am grateful as well to Senator Gallego for joining us, and others on the VA committee, other Democrats who have joined as co-sponsors. This measure is a comprehensive set of steps to put back to work veterans who have been illegally fired, make sure that the VA is properly staffed, provide protections in the future to veterans who may be in fear of illegal firings. The fact is that this bill is a call to action at a moment of crisis for all of our veterans. The VA's system of health care and benefits has been disastrously and disgracefully put on the chopping block by the Trump administration. Elon Musk's heartless and heartbreaking cuts, freezes, and firings are not just bad for the people who have been immediately affected, but for all of the veterans suffering real-life impacts. And we are seeing those impacts in real time. Surgeries that have been denied or delayed. The veteran crisis line, whose lines have been unanswered. The social work that is not provided to veterans. All of it in real time right now. So this measure is absolutely urgent now. And it would put back to work, rehire all the veterans who have been fired in all of the agencies of the federal government. Rehire all of the employees of the VA who have been illegally discharged. Provide everyone in the future with specific standards that have to be used by the VA's leadership, standards based on individual performance, not we don't like you anymore, but specifically attuned to the performance of anyone who is fired, and an appeals process for those employees, as well as protection of their data and information and all of the veterans' data and information in the VA files. Mental health services for anybody who is discharged. And this kind of protection should be not only for the veterans, but for military spouses, members of the National Guard and Reserve, survivors, and veteran caregivers. This measure is the first comprehensive protection for veterans against these abusive practices, and my hope is that it will be bipartisan, because there's nothing about veterans issues that should be partisan. The fact is, Elon Musk is disrespecting our veterans, disregarding their rights, disastrously putting them in jeopardy of lack of health care, lack of benefits, even after the PAC Act, when we came together on a bipartisan basis. And let me just say one more point. There are now close to 40,000 vacant positions in the VA, including more than 6,000 nurses, 2,500 doctors, 1,200 custodians, positions that the VA is trying to fill through recruitment. And at the same time, it's firing exactly those same kinds of people. How is it possibly going to recruit the doctors, the nurses, the social workers, when it is firing them without reason, without basis, to the detriment of veterans? It is a disgrace, it is shameful, and a disservice to all who have worn the uniform and who will wear it in the future. With that, let me turn to my colleague, Senator Sanders.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, and thank you for your great work as the ranking member and your authorship of this important legislation. As the Senator Blumenthal just mentioned, despite progress under the Biden administration, in the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2024, the VA reported over 36,000 vacancies at the Veterans Health Administration, including 2,400 doctors, 6,300 registered nurses, 1,800 social workers, 3,400 schedulers, and 1,200 custodians. In other words, the agency was already short-staffed, yet as we speak, Elon Musk and Donald Trump are trying to dismantle the VA by laying off an additional 83,000 employees. Despite today's court decision, they have already fired 2,500 probationary employees at the VA, many of them disabled veterans themselves. All across our country, people are shaking their heads, and they're asking, how does it happen that the wealthiest person in the world, guy worth hundreds of billions of dollars, is making life more difficult, is sacrificing the health and well-being of veterans of this country, the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend us. But it's not just Americans all over the country, the veterans community itself, representing millions of people who put the uniform on, they're asking the same questions. And that is why the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the VFW, has recently said, and I quote, "We call upon VA to reconsider its planned reduction of 83,000 employees and thoroughly review any proposed cuts before rolling out further announcements like this." End of quote. I agree with the VFW. The Paralyzed Veterans of America said that they are, quote, deeply troubled by actions being taken in Washington, D.C. that are already having a detrimental impact on the services that veterans with spinal cord injuries and diseases like ALS and MS rely upon, end of quote. The Disabled American Veterans said, quote, "We are extremely concerned about the leaked proposal to arbitrarily eliminate 80,000 VA employees. Our hearts are with the many veterans who are or will be losing their jobs. We worry about service-disabled veterans with small businesses who may be devastated by canceled contracts, particularly if they impact services to our community. But foremost, we're concerned for the veterans who are contacting us with fear and anxiety about the future of the benefits, services, and health care they rely on." That is what the Veterans Organizations of America are saying. And let us not forget, as Senator Blumenthal mentioned, nearly 900,000 civilian federal employees are either veteran spouses or veterans or spouses of active military members, representing 30% of the entire federal government workforce. An estimated 6,000 veterans have been fired across the entire federal workforce so far, and more are likely to be fired if we don't take a stand. In defending these layoffs, the VA has stated that the personnel moves will save the department more than $181 million a year. $181 million. Well, guess what? The Trump administration, as we speak, is proposing to provide the wealthiest people in this country with over $1 trillion in tax breaks over a 10-year period. In other words, they are sacrificing the needs of veterans who put their lives on the line to defend our country in order to make billionaires like Elon Musk even richer. And that is a trade-off that the American people, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, do not support. So let us be clear. We have got to go forward in a bipartisan way, as Senator Blumenthal just said. This is not a Democrat issue. It's not a Republican issue. This is an American issue. Today, we tell Elon Musk that the people of America stand with the veterans, the heroes and heroines who defended us, and we're going to protect their interests. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Senator Gallego.
Thank you. Well, thank you. As a veteran, an Iraq veteran, a proud Marine, I worry because what is about to happen with these cuts will cause veterans to die. There's just no other denying that. Elon Musk's decisions and Donald Trump's decisions to arbitrarily cut veterans from their jobs is going to increase depression. It's going to increase potentially suicides. We know what's going to happen if you cut VA services, not just the workers, but the services. Because I saw it happen when I first got back from the war. When we first got back in 2005, it was nearly impossible for us to find room at the VA. We couldn't find the therapist to help us. I lost many of the guys I served with to suicide. Some are still luckily alive, but are still struggling with alcoholism, have seen their times in jail. And some that have succeeded have found service and a reason to live and fight because they went and worked for a mission-oriented job, working for the federal government. And for someone like Elon Musk and a bunch of 20-year-old brats who have zero understanding of what sacrifice for country means, to just go and tell these men and women one more time that the country is throwing you aside. We don't need you. Don't worry about collecting another paycheck. Don't worry about having health insurance at the end of the year. Don't worry about how you're going to pay rent. You sacrifice your mind, your body, your youth for this country. You came and worked for this country. And because this dude wants billions and billions of dollars, we're going to cut these men and women off. And it doesn't have to be that way. We can find efficiencies while still making sure we're saving the lives of veterans. We can find savings while at the same time making sure veterans have fulfilling and rich careers in serving their country. And we don't have to be assholes about it and firing them overnight just so we can find savings that it's not going to end up back in the VA. And for someone to say, oh, this is going to save $100 million, what is it, $180 million? That's not going to be a savings because it's going to cost even more because it's going to take longer to fix the problems. The longer a man or woman, a veteran, goes without PTSD treatment because they can't find the therapist means it's going to take longer for them to get the help they need, that they're going to actually be able to go back and be functional and be a good member of society and work. The longer someone has to put off a surgery because you can't find the nurses or the doctors, it means that surgery is going to be more complicated, potentially more dangerous, and at the end, more expensive. And it doesn't have to be this way. One of the worst feelings you have when I got back from the war, me and my guys, we were reservists, and our end date was done, and they stopped paying us. No one offered us jobs. Some of us were homeless. And the worst feeling that we had was that everything we had just sacrificed for the government, for the country, in some of the hardest combat of the war, they just threw us aside because we weren't convenient anymore. We couldn't fit the bottom line of the DOD. They couldn't find one more month to house us on base. They couldn't give us one more paycheck. It was the worst feeling that you could ever have as a veteran. And we're doing that right now to thousands of veterans, both at the VA, people that are going to the services, and veterans that have been working across this country, dedicating their time away from family and dedicating just their whole soul and life to this country, and we have just said, we don't want you anymore. You are no longer convenient for us. Go away. That's what Donald Trump is doing. That's what Elon Musk is doing, and they're only doing it so they could give their buddies a tax cut. That is shameful, and it's a sin against this country that we're allowing that to happen. Please support this bill. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Any questions?
Senator, if there's a government shutdown, do you think that could speed up some of the things that the Trump administration and DOGE want to do with VA employees in terms of cutting personnel, services programs, etc.?
You know, I'm not going to speculate on what the Trump administration might do in case of a government shutdown. This continuing resolution also creates a kind of slush fund for Donald Trump and may give him unbridled discretion, so they are both potential licenses for illegal action on the part of Donald Trump. What's important now is to pass legislation that protects veterans. We're protecting veterans to make sure they get the services they need and deserve in health care, in disability benefits. They depend on both, and we want expedited action for this legislation because it's the only way to guarantee that they will be kept on the job serving fellow veterans. And I just want to make a point that, emphasize a point that Bernie made. You know, the most powerful voices and faces for this legislation are veterans. We got 2 Marines here, Marine Corps Reserve, and there are the veteran service organizations that came before our committee, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars Commander-in-Chief said to us, stop the bleeding. Stop the bleeding. That's what I tell my colleagues in the United States Senate and in the Congress. We need to stop the bleeding. And whether it's a shutdown or a continuing resolution, this legislation is absolutely necessary to stop the bleeding. It is literally a matter of life and death. Not just in the hospitals where veterans are waiting for surgery, where doctors and nurses can't do what they need to provide to our veterans, but also the PAC Act, where veterans are dependent on the disability benefits to live, put food on the table, pay their rent, and compensate for their disabilities resulting from exposure to the burn pits and other toxic chemicals.
Can I just say one thing? I don't know what Trump's going to do, but I can tell you right now, this is the most anti-veteran administration in the history of this country. But I know what's in the CR. In the CR, there's more than $1 billion of cuts to veteran benefits. Clearly stated, the Republican Party is pushing a budget, not a CR, because this thing is brand new, that is more than $1 billion cuts to veterans. So I know for a fact I will not vote for something that cuts veteran services. And that's what's in that bill. Whether it passes, whether not, whether we go to shutdown, what Trump decides to do, he has to decide. But I will not take part in knowingly cutting more than $1 billion from the VA. And that's just the start. There is a lot more they could do if we give them that power. Thank you. I got to head out.
Question for Senator Sanders. Given the $1 billion in cuts to veteran benefits in the House passed CR, what are you advising your Senate colleagues to do on that vote, on that 6-month bill, if the alternative is a possible shutdown?
No. I think what Senator Gallego just said is right. Let's be clear. This bill, for the first time in modern history, the CR was not written by representatives of both parties. It wasn't the Senate and the House coming together. It was written by right-wing House Republicans who managed to get it passed in the House by a few votes. I think what has got to happen right now is that we prevent the government from shutting down by passing a 30-day CR that will allow all sides to come together to work out a budget that works for all people rather than just the billionaire class.
And
Okay.
you have 3 no votes on the CR.
I've got to run. I've got to
reasons.
be on the floor. Okay.
Thank you all for being here. Yeah.
you said that you're not getting a lot of information from VA about these firings. Has anything improved in the last few days? Have you gotten any more clarity on how many veterans or what these
Crickets.
are?
This VA is the most unresponsive of any that I've seen in my time here. It is the least transparent, but it's opening its files to Elon Musk so that he can rummage through them, harvest personal, confidential, private information, including potentially healthcare information. And this bill would stop it. It would give veterans rights against that kind of invasion and intrusive conduct and abuse of power. And, you know, we know for sure Elon Musk has never worn any uniform. Donald Trump thinks veterans are suckers. That's the mentality of this administration. That's the disrespect it has for veterans. And that's why this legislation is necessary. Thanks, everyone.